Like the biggest debt all of us pay is ignorance. The people who move faster in life don't actually move faster. They get more for every step. The most like, the biggest debt, one of the things I love saying this, but like the biggest debt all of us pay is ignorance. And so I heard this close at this pitch years ago, and this guy got on stage and he was like, "Hey, ma'am," she was like, "How much do you make?" She was like, $50,000. So he wrote $50,000 on the whiteboard, and then he wrote $1 million on top of the 50,000, and he subtracted it and said 950,000. He said, "You pay life $950,000 every single year for not knowing how to make $1 million a year." And it was a crazy concept, and he was using it to close the audience. But the most expensive thing that all of us are paying for is the information that we don't know. And that's like both frightening and also incredibly exciting, because like fish in the best ponds, right? Like a good fisherman knows where to fish, and everybody can put a hook and a thing and stick it over the water, but like the best fishermen know where and when, et cetera. And that's exactly the story that you said, is like, I had the hook and I had the reel and all that stuff, but like I went to where the best fishing was. And like, to me, that's skill.
Same work.
Yeah.
Same amount of time, same rod.
More zeros. One of the things in the first book is like, you want to like sell better customers. So if
you want to sell better customers.
Yeah, like it's the exact same thing you just said, which is like, if I were to do CRO work, so conversion rate optimization for a website that's e-commerce, and I work for a store that's doing $1 million a year, and I say, cool, I'm able to increase your conversion on your site by 20%. Okay, cool. So now that's doing $1.2 million a year. I made $200,000 in value, and maybe I can get 10% of that. I get 20 grand. Okay, cool. I do the same work to a business doing $100 million a year. I make them $20 million for my 20% bump, and I get 10% of that, and I make $2 million. 20,000, 2 million, 100x, same work, to your point. And to me, that's skill. Like, to know that simple fact. Like, I had this tweet that went super viral, which was solve rich people problems, they pay better. A lot of controversy around that, but it's true. And so find the people, and a different way of saying it is, find the people who value what you have the most. And I'm sure you've heard this. Have you heard the story of the father and the son with the car?
No.
Okay. So
maybe I have, but I'm not sure if that was enough detail.
No, it's good. It's good. So there's a father who gifts his son an old beat up car. And he says, hey, I don't know if it drives or not, but you can take it down to the dealership down the street, see if you can trade it and get some money. He was like, okay. So he goes down the street, goes to the dealership. They say, we'll give you $1,000 for it. And he hears him out, comes back home. He's like, Dad, they said give me $1,000. He's like, okay. He's like, go to the impound yard where they, break the cars up just for metal. He's like, see what they'll give you. Goes there, and the guy's like, I don't know, this might be $500 of metal. Kid comes back home. He's like, Dad, he said it was gonna be $500. He's like, okay. He's like, hey, go down the street to that antique dealership, see if they've got anything, that used car lot. He's like, okay. So he goes down there, talks to the guy, comes back home, super excited. He's like, Dad, you won't believe it. He was like, this is a historic car. There's only like 10 of them left. He's like, it's worth $100,000. And so the father smiles, and he's like, and the lesson I want you to know is that it's not necessarily who you are, but the people that value you the most. And so you can talk to different people and go to the people who value you. And I love that story, because it's a huge business story in terms of like sell where the fish are, where the big fish are. Like if you're going to go hook fish, go where the whales are. It takes the same work, but a lot of it's just belief. People don't think it's possible. And so a lot of times you have to just keep leveling up, and you sell your first $10,000 thing, you sell your first $100,000 thing, sell your first multi-million-dollar package. You realize that's the exact same thing. It's just, so maybe if anybody's listening right now, it is the same thing. It's the exact same thing. And sometimes it's easier.
It's normally easier.
Like, you've seen that meme that says like, so what exactly am I going to be getting for this $50 thing, right? Yeah. And then it's like $50,000 clients, like wire sent yesterday, like what else do you need? Like and that's totally true. But I think there's a skill in understanding where to fish.
Certainly a skill. Information, it's information. It's even knowing that there was another lake over there in part. And that's why like listening to conversations like this is so valuable for people, because it lifts a curtain.
Totally.
And you go, what the fuck, you guys were behind here the whole time partying? That's what my business life has been like. It's like gradually, like I think I heard Kevin Hart describe on Joe Rogan one time where he said, there's this other room where these people are playing this other set of money games.
Yeah.
And then when you get in that room, you're almost pissed off that nobody told you this room existed. But then there's another door.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you get through there maybe a couple of years later and you find these other people, these fucking billionaires that are playing another set of games and you're going, what? And they're chilling.
Yeah.
They're just smoking cigars. They're not even doing any hard work. And you go, tell me the games that you guys have been playing in here.
Yeah.
And then again, the frustration is, and that's kind of what I feel like in my business life it's been like, where at the jump I'm charging, I don't know, I remember we found our first deck from 2014 charging, I remember the package, we did gold, silver and bronze. It was like, you know, like $200 package for like support and then $500 and then the gold package where we threw everything in for $1,000. And I remember one of my first clients accepting that. And then I think today, like the only difference, okay, there's skills that have increased, but information is the big thing. Knowing how to do it, you know, when you think about curtains that have lifted, that have really shifted the games you play from a value money perspective, like where someone's turned the lights on, you go, fuck, of course.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that comes to mind? Like big macro games.
I think a big, I will answer it with the stair steps of how each order of magnitude change in my income. So when I went from being an employee to self-employed, I went from making 4 figures a month to 5 figures a month. And that was for me just like, I'm now in control. The level above that was I started having other people who worked for me. I didn't even know that was possible. Sounds crazy. But like, I was like, you can hire people? Because my members at my gym were like, you know, other people can work here. I'm like cleaning the floor and doing the marketing and teaching the class. They're like, I was like, didn't think about that. Good call.
Bottleneck.
Right. And then went to 6 figures a month. Right. And then from there, stayed there, did the turnaround business, still had the same organizational structure, had another degree of leverage. And so the next degree of leverage was that I started licensing. So it was digital, right? So the cost of goods was basically nothing. And then that's when things started skyrocketing. That got me to 7 figures a month. And then 8 figures a month was using leverage through capital, which is where, we're at now. And I would imagine that 9 figures a month will probably be some level of technology or more media on my side. But all of these things are about leverage. And so this is like one of my favorite topics in the whole world. But if we define leverage as the difference between what you put in and what you get out. So if you have a lot of leverage, you put a little bit in, you get a lot out. If you have no leverage or low leverage, you put a lot in, you get a little bit out. And a lot of times people who are listening to this and are not making as much money as they want, they're putting lots of input in and not getting a lot out. They have low leverage opportunities. And so understanding how to get more for what you put in is the game overall. And so the first level that I described was labor. It's just work. First, I was working for someone else, then I worked for myself, then I got other people to work for me. The first level in each of those levels was more leverage. Above that, I had media, which is the thing that I was licensing out. So another degree of leverage. I made it once and I could license it out infinity. On top of that, I have capital. I can take capital. I don't have to sacrifice time in order to get something for it. So it's high input output. Above that would be some sort of technology. You build the code once. In theory, obviously, you continue to improve the code, but theoretically, you build the thing once and then 1 million people can use it. And so you want to stack as many types of leverage as you can and as much of them as you can, because like Joe Rogan also has a show and somebody else has a podcast. They both technically are using media as their vehicle for leverage, but he has significantly more of it. So it's not just like, I'm going to use all these, right? Yes, but it's also how much and to what degree. But like Facebook had other people's money. He used media, had other people's work, max leverage. Amazon, same thing, right? They used every element of leverage and they maxed all of them out. And that's at least the curtain that, and Naval talks about this, if you're familiar with Naval Ravikant. He talks about these things as the elements of leverage, or 4 types of leverage. And understanding that for me has kind of been a blueprint for wealth overall. And then, capital, there's degrees of capital, right? Like first you can get friends and family to give you money. Then you can get, institutional money. And then you can get public money, right? Which, you saw like the IPO money, like the fact that the NASDAQ was 4X the Dusseldorf exchange, is that where it was, right? There's just significantly more capital in that market. And so same work, more zeros. And so I love this topic because I think that that's fundamentally like the people who move faster in life don't actually move faster. They get more for every step.